VR hardware has been around for a few years now, but even so, we've yet to see many fully fledged games that make use of the technology in the right way. So when I heard of a story-driven adventure game that was crafted specifically for VR, I was all in. Welcome to Moss. Much like classic fairy tale films, Moss begins its story with an old hardcover book. But a book has a way of being much more than just a book when it's in VR. As soon as I slipped on the headset, I was overwhelmed with the feeling of being transported to another time and place. I'm not just looking at a book on a screen like in a traditional game. I'm standing in an entire room with a book placed before me. If you've never experienced VR before, this kind of immersion is giddying. It's all just so real. You turn the book's pages using motion control as a narrator fills in the dialogue.
First, they killed the king.
I really enjoyed the narration and the way she does different voices for like an old, wise character or a big, scary one. It really helps sell the fantasy of it all, and I thought it was perfectly executed. It's here you'll meet Quill, a young mouse who is hungry for adventure. She soon stumbles across some ancient magic, which results in her being linked with a mysterious being called a reader.
But she felt no danger from the being silently peering down at her.
Hey, that's you! Your job is to help Quill on her journey by influencing the environment. You move Quill with the left thumbstick and use motion control to push and pull things, which clears a path for her. These puzzles make up the bulk of the game, and they can be pretty tricky, especially since Moss takes an organic approach and allows you to figure out how things work all by yourself. Although, Quill will sometimes give you a hint if you're a bit stuck. I rather liked these puzzles. They were bite-sized and challenging, but rarely ever completely stumped me. Plus, they drip-feed mechanics at just the right pace, giving you variety without overwhelming you. Then there's the combat. Nasty little critters who would seek to take you down. The combat for me was probably the least enjoyable part of the game. Brave as she is, Quill is still a delicate little mouse, and it doesn't take much to defeat her. Many of the fights involve enemies trying to swarm and overwhelm you, and it can get very tricky to try and hold them back. Thankfully, you can use your mystical reader powers to control them. This makes fighting much easier. In fact, I think there's some fights that would be virtually impossible to pass without it. Unfortunately, the motion controls are pretty fiddly. This could have been down to my camera placement, but no matter how many times I reset and recalibrated, it was still never perfect. This was extremely frustrating because sometimes your little orb just won't go in the right spot and ugh. Perspective is also a bit of an issue, which sometimes makes it difficult to see the placement of a platform. So even if you think you totally made a jump, the game may not agree. Playing any game in VR can be super frustrating. It's really fiddly to have to deal with taking off the headset and then all of these cables and then recalibrating even if you just want to take a short break. Ugh. In fact, VR isn't recommended for very young gamers, especially in long sessions. But if you are allowed to play, Moss looks beautiful. The entire game looks like a little diorama, which is a really clever way to deal with the motion sickness that sometimes goes with VR. Not to mention, it's delightful. Everything is so charming and cute and tiny, and the world building is exceptional. You also get a strong sense of power and responsibility as the reader. The game really connects you to its own story. To me, most of the downsides here, like the dodgy motion control or the camera skipping and resizing itself sometimes, it's mostly down to the technologies being used. But if we're not making games ambitiously, then what's the point?
Quill's favorite story. How Sir Argus fought beside the Sprite Champion to seal this temple from the arcane.
Moss made me dream about the future of games and stories and magical worlds, and that is a huge achievement. I fell in love with Quill and her courage. I'm giving Moss 4.5 out of 5 rubber chickens. Thanks for watching our review of Moss. If you want to see our first play of Moss at E3 2017, then click here. Or if you want to subscribe, click here. Thanks! You should subscribe!